Good afternoon. Today we organize another book launch of MURCIR. Today's guest is Çağla Yesevi from Istanbul Kültür University. She is a professor of international relations, and now she is also the chairperson of International Relations Department in Istanbul Kültür University. Today, she is planning to present her latest study, Migration from Central Asia, Stories and Identity Formation. Before going to the presentation, I'm planning to talk about also MURCIR. As you know, MURCIR is a 30 years old research center in International Relations Department of Marmara University. And we organize several events about contemporary developments and also some theoretical aspects of the changing international order. We have so many social media accounts, and our website is very active about announcing our recent organizations. Please follow our accounts from all these platforms. Now, first of all, I want to introduce our guest speaker briefly. She has a very long biography. First of all, she is a graduate of Marmara University, Department of Political Science and International Relations. She is graduated from our department in 1996, and she has also a master's degree from Marmara University. Her PhD is from Yeditepe University Social Science Institute, and the program name is Political Science and International Relations. She is an expert about Central Asia, but you can find many publications in her CV. Her publications are generally on Turkish world studies, Turkey's energy relations, Israel and security, Turkish nationalism, and international organizations. And now it's time to give the floor to our dear guest, Çağla. We are listening to you and your interesting books content. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you very much for having me. So I'm so excited being graduate from Marmara University. So it's my pleasure together with you. Sezgi Hoca is here. Hello again. And Sherzat Erenliye. So I'm so glad today I will talk about my book, Migration from Central Asia, Stories and Identity Formation. I will talk about methodology, my motivation, the reasons of this migration I will talk about. And also then I have got other questions in this research, that what were their stories and what about their identity formation? How could they actually define themselves? This is my book. It focuses on migrant families. Actually, I will talk about not the recent migration. Actually, I have been talking about late 1920s and early 1930s. So the focus area is West Turkestan, but also very briefly, I also talk about East Turkestan and the migration from East Turkestan also, but my focus will be related to Soviet Central Asia. Late 1920s and early 1930s, they began to migrate. So they are calling themselves as Turkestanians. They used this identity actually in those years. And first they migrated to Afghanistan, then to, in 1950s especially, to Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and United States of America. So we cannot say that, okay, the only three countries from Afghanistan, then to Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and United States of America. Actually, of course, there are many people, they also went to different countries, for example, Germany. But I focused on Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and United States of America. So I dealt with their experiences within this migration and afterwards, actually. It's me put here. So it focuses on what families experienced during this migration, how they made their living. So economic issues, actually, again, it is important. How they lived in those different countries. And also I wonder, Could they preserve their culture, their language, their traditions? And also, I focused on my own family, actually, Yesevi family. So we are descendants of famous Hoca Ahmet Yesevi, and how actually they affected from this migration. So first, yes, some parts of this book, it is related to Yesevi family, and also the other parts, also it focuses on the other, actually, families, other Turkestanian families. Also, migration during this process, locals are important. So locals, how locals treated migrants, how they defined them. So they are defining themselves as Turkestanians, as muhajirs or Kachkaks. But also regarding identity formation, locals, how they actually define these migrants, their impact on identity formation, and how identity definitions change due to living in different geographies and through different generations. So I have been talking about late 1920s and early 1930s. So we are talking about approximately 100 years. So many things change actually. I think this book could be helpful for understanding the changing outlook of migration and identity. Dealing with identity, who are they? So it was the first thing. So you know that the title of the book, Migration from Central Asia. Actually, I thought that the title could be Migration from Turkestan, but Routledge said that, okay, Central Asia will be better. So I try to actually explain where Turkestan is, where Central Asia is. I use the term Turkestan in this book. However, the title is Central Asia because those people, they define themselves as Turkestanians. However, today Turkestan does not exist, but also you know that many historians, also some of the academics, they are still using Turkestan as a region, as an area. Even they are calling these Turkic republics of Central Asia as the Turkestan republics. However, why I use it? Because they call themselves as Turkestanians and they have got such associations as Turkestanian associations in Istanbul, in Adana, in the United States of America, in New Jersey. So because of that, because they define themselves as Turkestanians, I use this definition. My methodology, this book based on 71 interviews with migrants and their descendants. Most of the interviews were held in Istanbul, in Turkey. And I also go to Almaty and Turkestan in Kazakhstan, and I made some interviews there. Most of the interviewees live in Istanbul, but some live in Saudi Arabia and the United States of America. So they have got many relatives in Turkey. And so I interviewed them during their visits to Istanbul. So a few of them, actually my interviewees, they lived in Kazakhstan. So this actual research was supported by Istanbul Kültür University, and also Ahmet Yesevi University, they sent me a support letter. So I went there and I also interviewed some Kazakhs there actually, some also Uzbeks. The central part of the book includes an oral history study. So my motivation, my curiosity, actually, it was first related to family's past. So I have to say that born in Turkey as a member of Yesevi family and fourth generation living in Turkey, I wondered how my elders migrated. So I really wonder or migration story. So I began asking my maternal grandmother about her life story, her experiences about this migration, and I began to record with her voice. During this research, actually, I also wonder other families. So other Turkestanian families, their experiences about this migration. Actually, there were many similarities, but I have to tell you that if we just compare Yesevi family and other Turkestanian families. So my questions were, could they preserve their culture, their language? What about the change in identity formation? So I talk about different generations, so fifth generations that we can also talk about. So first and second one, they actually experienced migration from different countries, but they settled in different countries. So Turkey, we are talking about different experiences. Saudi Arabia, again, different. And today, actually, the research was between 2018 till 2020. So we are talking about 90 years past, and how could they actually identify themselves? They could just use Turkestanian or Uzbek or Turkish or something else. So again, I have to say that this project was supported by Istanbul Kültür University. So I got also approval from Ethics Committee of Istanbul Kültür University. What I did, I read many books about the history of regions. I also analyzed some old photographs, letters, memoirs. So I conducted short questionnaire and then face-to-face in-depth individual interviews. So individual interviews were important because if I talk some, let's come together, let's talk about it. So they could affect each other's views and experiences. So I prefer individual interviews with this 71 person. So I prepared semi-structured questions. And also I used Turkish, Uzbek, and English languages because they were living in different places. And sometimes they use mixture, actually. They use Turkish, Uzbek, and English in the same interview as well. These elderly people were really important, Suhal, in this study. I visited and listened to their memories actually more than once. So I visited them again and again. They tried to tell me everything, whole story of their life. So it was really long. So transcription was really difficult because they talked about many things. So I tried to again listen them and try to write them. Nobody could help me because there were many languages in this interviews. So I may criticize myself that being an insider. So being an insider, I could receive some criticisms about my interview being about the distancing, actually. I'm not actually a migrant, but coming from a migrant family. So my mother was a baby when they migrated. My father was 6 years old. So again, I'm not a migrant, but not really distant anymore regarding the diaspora community. Speaking Uzbek, having emotional sensitivity, and also I know something about the culture of the migrants. I think this gave me some kind of comprehensive perspective. So I learned more than an outsider. So I will again tell you that being an outsider and trying to talk regarding such sensitive issues, it is really difficult because they don't want to reply all the questions most of the time. But this was not my problem. So all these people, they were really willing to tell me about their stories. And also I tried to measure the reliability of the data. So yes, they're telling me something, they're remembering something, that's really good. However, what about the reliability of data? So I also checked the migration stories of my own family, Yesevi family, interviewing with distant relatives. And also I visited more than once, then I tried to check and I tried to actually change my questions to take the same answer. But it was really good because they tell me they vary the same answers. So it was really good because then I thought that it is reliable. So I had a chance to spend long time with interviewees. So it was really good for me. What can I tell you that? What about the other researchers, outsiders? So I read Alimova and Erarslan. These were master thesis and also PhD thesis, actually. They were considered as foreigner, outsider, undercover police officer, for example, an official of Uzbekistan, Russia, or even a spy. So they wrote in their dissertations such issues. And also I heard from these people that someone came, they had a recorder. We don't know who she is. So I can say that these were not my problems. So it was really easy for me to actually interview, to talk with these people. So let's come to my questions. Why did they migrate? What were the main reasons? So actually we know that dealing with Central Asia, we know many things about Central Asia. They face with collectivizations, secularization policies of the Soviet Union, decolonization. So I thought that there should be some economic reasons, economic and social reasons for this migration. So I have to say that this oppression and persecution by the Russians, collectivization, decolonization, exile, famine. So these were the main reasons. But when I asked them this question, why your family members actually migrated, they always told me about the preservation of religion and preservation of their culture. They say that we could not survive. So it is related to dignity and also religiosity. These were really important for them. They said, okay, we didn't migrate, but we were forced to migrate because we could not, if we stay there, we could not actually preserve our culture and also our religion. After migrating to Afghanistan, so I have to say that they went many other places, as I focused on Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and United States of America. And I say that, okay, we like such research, Zuhal. Yes, it's completed, then we can study. But when I began to my study, it is not really good, actually, I have to say that. Still, we are talking about ongoing migration because of the Saudi Arabia's immigration policies. Still, they haven't got identity cards. So still, they are muhajirs. So yes, they can live there, they can have work, but always a person, a Saudi person should help them so they could not have property. Even regarding their jobs, they could not get really good jobs, especially if we talk about medicine area. So I was motivated to write this book to convey the unhidden stories of these migrant people. And also I really wonder what are the changes regarding identity. I try to understand migration. How can we call this migration? Actually, Soviet Union, they didn't force them to go somewhere else. Even they say that this is illegal. These people shouldn't actually go to Afghanistan. They try to obstruct such migration. However, dealing with human rights issue, dignity, preservation of culture and religion, we can also call it as a forced migration. They say that they were not actually, they're not trying to go somewhere else. They are not economic migrants. They say that we will return to our homeland when the regime changed. So if the Soviet Union collapsed, so they could think about returning to their homeland. They labeled themselves as muhajirs, and they called this migration as hijra. So we can say that because of such regime, because of such persecution, this secularization policies, they were forced to migrate. And because of that, this migration, we can call it, in this book also I stated that it was a forced migration. Geographical terms, Central Asia and Turkestan, I tried to explain them, why I use them. After delimitation process in 1924, we are not just talking about this Turkestan term. So we have got new republics as Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan. After we have Kazakhstan and also Tajikistan. But during this process, they didn't face with such republics. Yes, they have seen some of them, but they didn't want to call themselves as Uzbeks or Kazakhs or Kyrgyz during this migration. They were calling each other as hemşehri. Hemşehri is a Turkish word, actually, from same city. However, they were using hemşehri from Turkestan, from this region. Because of such persecutions, they migrated, so they have been sharing same fate. They have got such bond. This bond is being muhacir, being kaçkak, actually. So they were helping each other, and they were calling each other as hemşehri, muhacir, or Turkestanian. So they have been defining themselves as this Neverland. So I think diaspora leaders also, they were effective calling these people as Turkestanians. What is the contribution of this book? So it can give overall picture of these migrants going to different places. And also, what about the younger generations? I also talked to younger generation, how could they feel? Because they are living in Saudi Arabia, even if they have got elders, they're calling themselves Turkestani, but they could not even speak this language if we talk about Saudi Arabia. How could they actually today they can define themselves? Considering diaspora leaders and elites, they were really influential. Because of that, actually, I try to talk ordinary people, because diaspora leaders construct this community, and they talk about their experiences, their migration, what they did, their journals. They published many journals, so their political life. However, what about the others? So because of that, I try to write the ordinary people, what they thought about their migration, what were their experiences. I talk about it, if we talk about the chapter 2, so what about the socioeconomic position of that time in late 1920s and early 1930s. So I talk about Russian Empire, then Bolshevik Revolution, the establishment of new Central Asia. So we are talking about emergence of these new republics, but actually they didn't much affect this diaspora community. I talk about Basmachi movement. Basmachi movement, it was a national struggle from 1917 till 1934. So this was really essential, because this movement failed, and when they see this failure, they decided to migrate. Again, importance and impacts of Jadidism. The Jadidism, they know that ignorant people and they were underdeveloped, so they have to change their fate. How could they change it? Through education. So Turkestan, Azerbaijan, and Crimea, so we talk about Jadid. So Jadidism was also influential, so some Jadid leaders also migrated. The effects of Stalinism, collectivization, decolonization, also secularization policies, they were all effective. So all of them actually affected such migration. Even we are not really sure about how many people actually migrated. Some sources, they say that 500,000, some say that 900,000. Chapter 3 was related to actually religious perspective, cultural and social structure of the region. I talk about a little bit Sufi traditions and Sufi Hoca Ahmet Yesevi and his contribution, his impacts on this region. And then I asked my relatives, actually, what were their experiences about migration? Why did they migrate? Looking to their reasons, there were 3 reasons. First one was the survival, because Russian soldiers came to their homeland, their home, and they began to send their relatives to Siberia. So sending Siberia, so we are talking about Gulag camps, and even they could not see each other afterwards. Second one, again, the same thing actually. This book finds preservation of religion and culture. Third one, all of their belongings, their lands, animals, houses, they were all confiscated. They were considered clocks and forced to migrate Afghanistan. So they haven't got their jobs. Even they can, okay, they lost all their belongings, but there should be some jobs in kolkhoz and sovkhozes. This was really difficult for them, even in those places, to find jobs, and they hid their identity. They tried to move within the country. Chapter 4, I talk about Basmachi movements and also difficulties of migrant peoples, and also very little, but I also talk about Second World War and Turkestan Legion. And also this was different migration, but I found some interviews, they tried to talk about this issue as well. So secularization policies were really effective. So the main reason for the migration, as I stated again and again, the preservation of culture and religion. So I think this is really important topic, Suhail. I want to talk about it. So they say that, okay, we went, so you need money in order to migrate. So they took their gold, their money, because this was illegal migration. They have to go to this Afghanistan. So they have to give money to Suju. Suju, these were the raft boats, actually. They use the river. But afterwards, the others, the stayer people, they say that they actually condemned and labeled such migrant people, that they steal their money, they steal the wealth of the nation. So this was really really desperate situation for them, because they see themselves as they're trying to preserve their culture. They were calling such migration as hijra, just like Prophet Muhammad did, but they afterwards they heard that despisement, that they took away our gold, so they took away our wealth. Even if this was their wealth, but they said, okay, because of such issue, so our homeland actually lost gold or the other wealth. So it affected the welfare of the state afterwards. Still today, when we go to actually Turkestan, Uzbekistan or any other place, they were still talking about taking away the gold. So this is really important. And when I talk to migrants, they said, okay, we didn't get much. We just paid for the these people. They transferred them to Afghanistan, and actually they live in desperate position in poverty, because they try to find jobs. They try to sell some hats, or they try to sell breads in order to survive. So they were not really wealthy. However, stayers actually still today, they're condemning such people that they were wealthy, they took away all the things. And they said, no, we didn't get, we hid all our belongings to our homes, because we believe that one day we will return to homeland. So migration flows, I talk about actually what they did in Turkey, what were their experiences in Afghanistan, in Saudi Arabia, and also the other places. In 1950s and 1980s, they went to different places. What about the scapegoats? Russians, they hated Russians. Because of them, they said that they were forced to leave their homeland. Afghans mostly they talk positively about Afghan people. Regarding Turkey, Turkish government actually, they invited such people, they helped. Even the Republic of Turkey, the authorities, actually they met with these people, they gave lands, and they said, okay, you're from our own blood, so you are pure Turks, so we are so happy that you came here. So they were really, still today, they were really proud of being Turkish in that sense. Regarding Saudi Arabia, even if they were called as Buharis, and they said, okay, you are really good people, so you know religion. However, they didn't give identity cards. Identity formation, this is chapter 6. So I asked the question, how could you define yourself? So some of them say that. I think this is really important. If you ask me this question, so I could tell something different. Or anyone else could ask me that, I could just use my city. I may say that I'm from Adana, I'm from Gaziantep, for example. Or if someone knows such issues, this migration, so I may tell that I'm Turkestanian Turk or Uzbek, because after 1990s, the identity formation again changed because there were independent republics. So they began to use Uzbek as well. But they said, okay, we are not Uzbeks of today's, but we actually came here 100 years ago. So we are not foreigners, they are trying to say. So these are the words Turkestanian muhajirs, or with their cities in the diaspora. And so we have to say that identity changed according to time, generations, but also according to people who ask this question. Diaspora communities are transnational actors who influence host country and kin state. So diasporic identity we have been talking about, they have got some affiliations, some closeness, both to host country and also to kin state. I also focused on collective memory of migrants. So it analyzes the identities of migrants, the identities of Turkestani migrants and their descendants. It is evolving actually. A person's living place and generational change determine and also values can change. So there are many words that they are using during this migration. They call themselves as muhajir, Turkestanian, hemşehri, and kaçkak. Maybe I can also talk about kaçkak. Kaçkak is a Turkish word actually. It means escaping from somewhere, escapers. So they again regret to be called as kaçkak. They say that we didn't escape. We did hejira. It was hejira, and we tried to liberate our homelands when we were in the diaspora in the other countries. So we wrote journals. We tried to voice the liberation of Turkestan or these places. So it was really important, I think. Today we call this place as Turkestan, some of you maybe. Uzbeks, Tajiks, Kazakh, Turkmens, and Kyrgyz, they call each other as hemşehri. They don't want to be seen as separate identities. So I have to say that this was something important, and they didn't identify themselves as Central Asians. So I read some books. In those books, they called these people as Central Asian. But when we asked this question, no one actually, they didn't call themselves Central Asians, but the other things that Turkestani and muhajir, kaçkak or something, not the kaçkak, but the others. So I have to say that the most important issue still today, the Stayer people considered and labeled them, these Turkestani migrants, as escapers who had taken away the wealth and gold of ancestral homeland. And it is really important, I think, to talk, because These people, they didn't return to ancestral homelands. They didn't get citizenship. But they have been, there is yearning to homeland. They try to visit there. But if we talk about Uzbekistan, for example, Uzbekistan didn't give them identity cards. They didn't want to deal with such people. And when they go there, they saw their relatives. It was good, but still there is such label that they taken away of the gold. But if we talk about Kazakhs, for example, Kazakhs took their Kazakh citizenship with the Oralman program. Yes, they went to different places and they got their identity cards, but only a few of them actually could take, sorry, couldn't change, yes. When I went to their homes, these migrant people, I saw many objects actually. They use flags, both Uzbek flags, for example, or Afghan flags, and also Turkish flags. There were many souvenirs in those houses, photographs of the leaders of the different countries, because this migration route, when they went to, for example, Pakistan, so leader of Pakistan, the photograph of him there, and also maps of Turkey, for example, and also maps of Uzbekistan and Afghanistan, maybe. So most of them were interested in events in their kin state and host countries where they stayed during the migration flow. So Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the other countries also important. None of the interviews, as I stated, were able to acquire Uzbek citizenship. Some of the interviewees acquired Kazakh citizenship thanks to Oralman program. This program ended in 2013. During this migration, the scapegoat, as I stated, that were Russians. Migrants always compare themselves with the locals, actually. Consider themselves more talented when they compare themselves with Afghans. In Turkey, they say that we share many customs, traditions, so they don't feel foreigner or discriminated in Turkey. However, still there are some distinctions. For example, they are using siz instead of sen, and they said, okay, they can consider themselves more polite when they compare with the locals. So even 90 years or 100 years past, still there is some kind of comparison. So I think it is different. So they have got their identity card. They didn't have any identity card of Uzbekistan, but still they have been preserving some of these distinctions. So I have to say that multiple identities, Turkish identity, Uzbek or Turkestanian identity. So there are many identities. So I cannot say that, okay, they are just calling themselves Turkestanian or Uzbek or just Turkish, but it can change during time. And some of these multiple identities, some of them could take some advancement in some cases. Regarding preservation of culture, still they have been, most of them, they could speak the language. They are calling this language as hemşehrice during the migration, but actually it is Uzbek language mostly. Historical consciousness of origins, they are also within associations, Turkestanian associations, till 1990s, they sing songs in these associations. They performed folkloric dances and their cultural rituals. And I have to tell you that still they could actually, still they could, I can say that most of them could still preserve their culture. Lastly, chapter 7, I talk about Turkestani associations. We have in Istanbul, in Adana, in New Jersey, and also the other Turkestani associations. Lately, I saw actually in Gaziantep and other places. The year effects are important also. So people can come together in those places, especially regarding some funerals, they would pray there. And these associations also, they have got some good relations with Uzbekistan Consulate General and Embassy. So I think you can ask me question. I have been talking about Uzbekistan. However, the name is Turkestan. And if we are talking about Turkestan, so we have been talking about during the migration period, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and the others. However, after especially 1990s and before that, Kazakhs and Kyrgyz, actually they established their own associations. So if we just go today, Turkestani associations, most of these people, the members are Uzbeks. If we're talking about Istanbul, Adana, or New Jersey, still the name they are preserving, but if you just look at the members, nowadays they are Uzbeks. I think that's all. Yes. I think I will just stop here. That's all from me. İbrahim Hocam da buradalar. Merhaba hocam. So I think I will just stop here. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I will be so glad to hear your questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. It's a really interesting book and interesting research because I'm sure so many people in academia reading and looking at different papers and let's say the articles and books, but this is somehow directly related with these immigrants coming from this, let's say, this geography. And it is focusing on identity construction process, immigration process, the identity construction process. So everything is somehow connected in your paper. And maybe I should ask first the guest, do you have any question? If you have, please raise your hand. If you cannot open your voice by yourself, if you can open your microphone and ask your own question. Do you have any question?
I'm very thankful to Ruhan and your professor for the book presentation. I really enjoyed the flow and how you configure your presentation. But I have a really quick question. How do you think the homeland, the idea of homeland is changing in the context of migration, with globalization, and also the way people just identify themselves with the territory? Or is it just a secondary idea? Is it the old world, old-fashioned conception, if you consider your context of the study? Thank you.
Thank you, Sezgi Hocam. How do you homeland changing? So regarding my context, actually, I really wonder. Still, they were talking about vatan, memleket. So they say that, okay, we have got homeland. It is far away. We are not going there. But still, we have got such yearning. It is something really sensitive to them. Yes, there are feelings. They are dealing with Uzbekistan, Uzbek politics. Sometimes some of them could visit there. But actually, they also know that they belong to where they actually live. For example, Saudi Arabia, yes, they have got feelings about Saudi Arabia. They know that in the future and today they will live in Saudi Arabia. But also they said, okay, when they come together with the family, with their friends, with their relatives, they have got some in common, and they could not see such common issues with the others, with the locals. So yes, they feel that they belong to somewhere else, but they will never return. So it is something really vague. Actually, utopic place. One day, maybe they can go there, and some of the elders, they said, I want to go there, and maybe I can die there. However, during their lifetime, actually, they don't think about going there and trying to change all the lifestyle, all the everything. So this territorial understanding, it is different. Yes, they have got their feelings. They still believe that their families came from there. They are using this language. I think, says Gojam, this could be really important. They are using the language. Some of them still, they are using the language, this Uzbek language. When they come together with this diaspora community, women or men, still they are maybe using this language. They are preserving their culture. For example, there are some meetings called Gepgeştek, and still they are continuing such meetings. They're coming together. Most of the time, they are using Turkish language, or sometimes Afghan, I mean Persian, but still they feel that they have got some common. So this is not territorial understanding, but still they are preserving their language and culture. So that was a really, that they have got their village far away. They will never go there, but there are still feelings about this homeland. Says Gojam.
Thank you.
Is it clear?
I suppose there is no response. And do we have another question? If not, I may ask a question. When I was listening to you, I remembered the famous association, I think, in Sultanahmet. You know, when we say Turkestan, we always now remember especially Eastern Turkestan, especially after, you know, these tortures they faced under Chinese government. So what kind of connections they have with these newcomers, with the new waves? What kind of, I don't know, the bridges they constructed with these newcomers? And my other question is also connected with this issue. You were referring the term of Turkestan, because when they came is maybe very important for construction of this term, this usage of this term. Because if I understand right, we are talking about the beginning of the 20th century, 1920s, the last, you know, the fall of the last, the castle maybe in front of the Soviet Empire was around 1920. I'm not an expert about this, but what I remember from our PhD class about Central Asia. So when I was looking at those days, this Turkestan term was much common, not by divided, by settled, by the, let's say, the Soviet rule. This the new identities considered as national, like Uzbek, Kazakh, Kyrgyz. These divisions were not so structurally constructed. Do you think that this new generation people coming from these countries have a different perspective, or shall we argue that Turkestan term is still very strong for construction of a new identity bridge? Why I ask this, because as you know, now we have an initiative about Turkish states organization. So do we have actual real social organic base for that?
Yes, very good question. You remember really much regarding this area. Thank you very much. So first question, it was different newcomers actually. Newcomers were different. Actually, these people, they migrated. I will talk about Turkey if you don't mind. In 1950s, they entered the Republic of Turkey, and they said that, okay, it was really good time. And governors, they were at the train station. They said, okay, you are our brothers, you are poor bloods, so welcome to your own country. So they feel that all these places under occupation of Soviet Union, especially Russians, they called them. So they went to only independent Turkish country. So this is their homeland. So from the beginning, they felt that this is their homeland. And they tried to liberate Turkestan with their journals politically, actually. So they were proud of being Turkish. So they were really proud of having identity cards. So they also say that when we came to a train station, when we tried to get off this train, there were policemen, governors, and they were really helpful. They welcomed, and we believe that this is our state. So it was really emotional. They felt very proud being in Turkey. But newcomers, maybe newcomers we can talk about differently. But in 1990s, all these republics, they gained their independence. We all know this process very well. And new migrants began to come, and they thought that they were really different from these migrants. Yes, they are using same language. Even they said, okay, those newcomers, they could not even talk their own language properly. We could talk better because we didn't actually mix Russian words to our language. So they were really proud of themselves. So this diaspora community, they really love and respect themselves actually, because 90 years passed, we still use our language, we still preserve our culture. So they were really proud of themselves. And also, they didn't like the morality issue was really important. So they didn't see some behaviors of these migrants. They didn't say that it's not really good manners. So they say that corruption of morality, mostly they stated that because they were different, actually really different, because they faced with communist regime. So their customs, some of their customs changed. So they were not really close in that sense in 1990s. So Eastern Turkestan, it was something different. So still they are facing. And some of them were within this diaspora communities. They did so they didn't separate them. So under the Turkestanian identity. And then Eastern Turkestanians and Western Turkestanians, they separated. They established their own organizations. Regarding Turkestan, Zuhal, so it is really important nowadays. We are actually studying on it. Organization of Turkic states, it was really good news for all these people. Actually, Turkish nationalists, and regarding the actual region, so Central Asia or Turkestan, could they talk about Turkestan? So we are talking in, or historians, and also some people dealing with literature. So we are using this term, Turkestan. And when I went to Uzbekistan, they're also using it. You know that Islam Kerimov first dealt with Turkestan or common home. So he said that when they first gained their independence, we believe that Uzbekistan would be the leader of this region. However, the time changed, and Kazakhstan, wealthy nation, so could act like a leader. So they believe that. Today, when I went to one of the conferences of the Organization of Turkic States, which was held in Uzbekistan, so they sing a song. This song was from Choltan. It is called as Güzel Türkistan. So Güzel Türkistan was, it was not a song actually for diaspora community. when they came together before 1990s, they were actually identifying this song as a national anthem. So one day Turkestan will be liberated. So they were actually when they sing this song, they were crying actually. So when we just go to Uzbekistan, that they say that okay, they are actually using this song as a national anthem, and even during this celebrations, during the openings, they are using this song. So we have to say that Turkestan, it is still there, especially looking from the perspective of Uzbekistan. It is something common, so it could be used for not the unification, but integration of this region. So they said, okay, in the past, so there was Turkestan, so then we have got such new republics. But also, this is one of the one side of the coin, but I have to tell you that another thing is that nation building process of these countries, it is going on, and some of the people, they are even questioning the term Turkestan or calling these people as Turkic. They said, okay, we don't want to lose our own identity. We don't want to lose our own customs. Yes, but first we are Uzbeks. First Uzbekistan, for example. So I think it is, we can actually, this is the point that, yes, there is something related to Turkestan, but nation building process is ongoing. And also we are talking about, we are using this term. It is something sensitive for us. So, but regarding to my research, I use this term because they call themselves as Turkestanian. And secondly, I have to tell you that I talked to people, and most of them were the members of Turkestanian associations. So I got these results, but maybe you can talk different people. They married with the locals, so the result of the research could be different. But this 71 people, they were mostly the members of Turkestanian associations. So because of that, I have this lecture as well.
Thank you. Do we have another question or any comment? There is a thanks here in the chat box coming from Yavuz Bey. The message says, a great and informative presentation. Thank you for your kind interest. We thank you for your attendance. And maybe finally, I have something in my mind. I want to say that when I was trying to make a research in archives of the Grand National Assembly for the Balkan term, what does it mean for these people? As you know, they are the continuous generation of the previous the era, I mean, the political era. They were Ottoman once, and they transformed into the member of the national state in the Republic of Turkey. And when I look at their explanations in the Grand National Assembly sessions, some of them were talking about the immigrations coming from the Balkans, and most of them, as you know, coming from the Albanian or the other ethnic origins, but they were also considered as part of this political identity of Turkishness. But some of them were also criticizing these immigrants coming from the Balkans by comparing the people coming from the Central Asia, who are considered as from the same blood. Now I understand after your presentation and your research what they mean actually. Most probably during those days, all these things were much more well known, but because I'm not an expert about it, I couldn't understand this comparison. But now it's much clearer. Thanks for your research and your book for this purpose.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a great pleasure being here.
Oh, thank you for your participation to our MURCIR book launch series. It is really interesting book. I hope the readers will like to read it, and we may share again the feedbacks with you. This video will be uploaded to the YouTube account of MURCIR, so I'm sure most of the listener of this video will somehow respond to your analysis, and they will be very valuable for the next discussions. Would you like to add a few more points? If not, we are coming to the end of our meeting.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a great pleasure.
Yeah, there is a message from Sherzot Eraliyev. Thank you very much, Çağla Hocam. Looking forward to
I hope so.
Thanks for your participation also. So the next book launches and Wednesday talks are announced at our website, and our social media accounts are existing almost all social media platforms. Please follow us. We are really active and we are trying to follow the latest developments in international relations. Thank you and hope to meet again in another meeting.
Thank you very much. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.